So far in our program, all we've done is we've drawn a ship at our mouse's X and Y location, centered there. And we've also set the color key to white so that the white part of the picture is not being drawn. It's just transparent. So next, what we need to be able to do is we need to be able to rotate this ship. We don't want the ship just pointing in one direction. And it would be nice if we didn't have to redraw the ship in paint over and over again on all of these different angles. It would start to look all warped probably, and it just wouldn't be very good. But we can actually rotate images in Pygame itself. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take this image and we're going to rotate it around 360 degrees, and it's sort of like taking little snapshots of each spot. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to use a loop. So we can actually change this because I would like to use just the name ship for my ship. So ship equals an array of, let's just make it zeros for now. And we're going to want 360 of them. So we want 360 pictures. We'll have our ship and we'll just rotate it 1 degree, 1 degree, 1 degree until we have 360 different degrees. So we're going to change this ship name right here because ship is going to be used in our list of ships, list of images. We're going to call it ship start, I guess. So, or we should maybe call it initial. Initial is a better name. So this is our initial ship picture. It's the one that we actually loaded. And so we need to transform that and put it there. And this one right here, ship center, is the initial ship. And there we go. So ship equals, now we have a list of zeros right now. What we're going to do is we're going to fill in that list of zeros with rotated images, 360 rotated images of our initial ship. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to say for angle in range 360, because we want to have this happen 360 times. We can say ship angle equals, so the ship in the list that we're talking about is going to be pygame.transform.rotate. What do we want to rotate? We want to rotate our surface, which is our initial ship. Okay, so that's the picture that we're rotating, that ship that I imported or loaded from the file. We're going to rotate it by how much? We want to rotate it by angle. So we want to rotate it 1 degree, and then 2 degrees, and 3 degrees. And the number in the list is going to be the amount that it's been rotated. So we can think of this ship right here as a list of pictures. The first picture is the initial ship, but rotated by 1 degree. The second one is and by the second one I mean index 2, it's technically the third picture. The second one is going to be our initial picture but rotated 2 degrees. Then the third one rotated 3 degrees, and so on all the way up until 359 degrees, because of course 360 degrees is back to 0. So just to show you that this works, instead of drawing our ship, we are going to, let's say for just example, draw ship 90. Okay, so we're just going to draw the 90th shape. So when I run this, you can see there's my ship rotated 90 degrees, and to the left it is, because normally it's pointed straight up and down. So 90, my 90th picture over there, is going to be pointing straight to the left. And so if I look at picture number 180, if I draw 180 in there instead, it's going to be the ship pointing down. And lastly, if I go in with a 270, you can see that it's actually the ship pointing to the right. And if I try to go to 360, it's going to give me an error. Why? Because I only have 359 versions of ship, and the 360th we would want to get back at the 0 degree turn. So ship 0, our very first picture, is going to be the original picture where it was rotated 0 degrees. So just to show you, we can loop through these pictures and draw different ones to the screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, before my while loop, I'll say angle equals 0. And then down in here, I'm going to say angle plus equals 1. So it's going to be 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, etc. And I'm going to draw my ship based on that angle. And then I'll just finally say, all right, if angle is equal to was 359. So if we make it to 359, we've drawn the 359th picture, then we need to reset angle back to 0. So in other words, it will be -1, and then when it comes up through the loop again, it'll set it back to 1, or I mean back to 0, and draw the 0th picture. So now when I run this, you can see my ship is rotating, but it's no longer centered. And that's kind of a problem. So we're trying to draw where it's centered, but it's not quite working, and I'll show you why. When we have a picture, like let's say this is our ship right here, and our ship is drawn inside this box, and we take this box and we rotate it. So I'm going to just take a copy of this, and I'll put it over here, and then I'm going to rotate it 45 degrees. So let's say we rotate this shape 45 degrees. Well, what happens now is Pygame doesn't draw a shape that's actually rotated like this. The surface itself is now actually this picture right here. Okay, so you can see that this surface is bigger than the original one. And so what's happening is it's taking kind of the center of this, but now it's no longer, like the width here is different than the width here. The width on our original picture was 50 pixels, and the width on our new one is no longer 50 pixels. It's now going to be more than that. So what we have to do is, for every picture, we have to actually calculate what is the width, and let's draw it at half of the width and half of the height. That's what we need to do. So in order to do that, we have to go back into our code, and instead of just saying ship center X, what we can actually do is we can move this information right here, and we can calculate a brand new X and Y every time if we want to. So what we're going to do is right here under processing is we're going to move our angle into processing. We're going to move this up into processing because those are all calculations that we're doing. And then what we're going to do next is we need to recalculate our ship center X and Y every time through our loop. So we're going to copy that. That's going to be another process we're going to do. So the ship center X is not our initial ship, but it's going to be our ship angle. So the ship that we're looking at right now. Okay, the picture that we've selected. So ship angle, and there we go. So whatever ship picture we're looking at, whichever rotated one, we're going to get the center by just looking at that picture, finding out its width, and dividing it by 2. And that's how much we're going to have to offset our picture from where our mouse is. So when I run this one more time, you can see it's rotating very nicely at the center there, rather than being kind of flopping back and forth as it goes around. Now it's nice to have it rotating and all, but instead let's use the mouse to rotate the ship. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the buttons for the mouse. So I'll call this mouse buttons equals pygame.mouse.get_pressed. And remember, button 1, then our left click would be mouse button and then a 0 in brackets. So we can just say if mouse button 0. In other words, if we're left clicking, then what do we want to do? Well, angle plus equals 1. And then we can say if mouse button 2. In other words, if we right click, then angle minus equals 1. And lastly, I shouldn't have erased this line of code. We can say if angle equals 360, then angle equals 0, and if angle is less than or equal to -1, angle equals 359. So it would only be -1 or less than -1 if we're rotating by decreasing the angle. And I should probably put greater than or equal to 360 so that when I run this, oh, forgot my colon. When I run it, see my ship's no longer rotating, but when I start left clicking, my ship's rotating to the left, and as soon as I release, it stops. And if I start right clicking, my ship is rotating to the right. And I stop, and it stops. And I'm just going to keep it rotating all the way around to make sure that our code is good. You can see it's just going to keep rotating around and around. And that's not because we've gone into the negative angles. We just said, all right, if you've gotten to 360, then just reset back down to that 0. Okay, so there you have it. A very simple program that lets you rotate your picture around.